Hello, my name is Epic Bubble, and I sometimes go by the name of Simon, and this is a thoughts video on why this week has been quite slow. Seems like everyone had New Year's Eve and then they decided not to go back to work. So haven't really got a lot of games out and been playing, which is kind of sucky. I wish they kind of have changed, but hopefully that will be changing in the next coming few weeks. I'll be going to a few events. But besides all that, what I have been doing, and that is playing through the Star Wars Imperial Assault Legends of the Alliance app. This is essentially campaign on your phone for Star Wars Imperial Assault, but the key difference is you don't have to play as the Imperial player. You don't have to play as the Dungeon Master. There's an app. The app that tells you exactly what you need to know, and it will take you on a story. So there's obviously a lot of things I have to cover. If you are all familiar with things like Mansions of Madness, second edition, its app, or Descent, Journey in the Dark, its app, then there's a lot of similarities that I've obviously taken from it. Again, the cool thing about this app is it doesn't require an Imperial player, which means essentially it's a fully cooperative experience. There is a campaign story that is roughly going to take you about a day and a half, 2 days to fully complete. And it's a proper Star Wars story. The writing is really good in it. The app itself works by essentially just having you play out the Imperial roles, but it gives you certain tasks the Imperial player has to do. On each of the Imperial players' turns, the app tells you what it kind of prioritizes. And what's cool is the app will then change its priorities depending on what's happening in the scenario. That's all really cool. So the app doesn't track things like where your heroes are on the board or where the enemies are on the board. The only thing it really does track is what currently the board layout is like, what objects are on the board, and just basically how many turns have gone by, what heroes have been wounded, and what characters or Imperial figures have been destroyed. It kind of tracks all that. The app also kind of does a thing where it prioritizes things. So what will happen is you will activate one of your heroes, similar to a normal game, and then the Imperial player gets to activate one of their characters. The app will do it for you, but the app will tell you how the character has to act. So the app will say, move Stormtrooper closest to the nearest hero, and then perform a range attack. Or it might be, of course, more complicated things depending on what creature or what enemy is currently out on the board. That's pretty nice, but it does mean it's a lot of admin where you have to kind of go through, okay, well, this guy's going to obviously move here, and then he's going to go and shoot this one here, and then you have to roll dice. But if you're playing Star Wars Imperial Assault, you're pretty much used to it now. The only difference is you're kind of all playing as the Imperial person, and so you're all kind of making the really bad decisions. There's a rule in the game called the Imperial rule, which is like, if it's the worst case scenario, you have to do that worst case scenario, and that's just quite good. What the app also does is it kind of realizes that it can't decide things. So, for example, the Star Wars Imperial Stormtrooper, they have ability where if they're next to someone, they can re-roll one of their attacking dice. The app, of course, doesn't know where minifigures are on the board, which means they just basically give it just a flat damage increase. There's also a lot of changes where certain enemies kind of get more abilities, which does get a bit complicated. So in a sense, you might be used to playing Star Wars Imperial Assault, you might be used to how a certain figure or certain character acts, and then all of a sudden the app is coming out and says, oh no, this character can also do this and do this. It's generally within line of what they can do, but it's just an added thing of just keeping in mind, you kind of always have to reference stuff. The cards themselves, the physical cards that you obviously get in Star Wars Imperial Assault, those don't really matter anymore. They essentially are just there to tell you how much health the character has and how much dice they roll when attacking or defending. Everything else, like their card text, is completely almost irrelevant, which is kind of a shame, but again, you have to take into consideration of this is an app trying to replicate a role of a human player, so it's fully understandable. Now, the big thing is the app almost learns, or I wouldn't say learns, but it's cleverly programmed to change its priorities depending on how the mission has turned out. So if heroes are really doing really well, it's essentially going to send more and more people against you. If the heroes are maybe struggling, it might open up, say, a secret entrance into a certain part, or it might, for example, give you more supply crates that you can possibly go and acquire. Again, there's a few minor rules in how the game plays. For example, heroes can no longer heal when they rest. Instead, they have to find medipacks, which of course they find in supplies, or they just get given during the course of the game. The game also takes a lot of inspiration from Mansions of Madness. So whenever you interact with a thing, you kind of click the app, and it'll give you a brief dialogue of the terminal lights up, and you have to then try and input a code or hack the terminal. And then you obviously have to roll successes to see if you do it or not, and then it will record that, but it never tells you how many you need. So one of the cool things that it does is, in a normal game of Imperial Assault, the Imperial player would have to tell you, okay, the game or the map that you're playing on, it ends in 6 rounds, and you have to do this, and you have to get this many successes. The app kind of hides that, which is a nice touch. It kind of adds a nice mystery to the whole thing, which makes the game a bit more harder. There are times when you kind of do just luck out, where you kind of just go, oh, I have to go there, there, and there, and then everything just works out, which is kind of a shame, because there's not a lot of replayability in that. The one nice thing about Mansions of Madness was things get randomized quite a lot. In this, it's not really that case. There's randomization to what weapons you might get given at the end of a map. You might get randomization as to what enemies you have, and this is the brilliant part of, if you get more expansions, there's more randomization to it. So for example, if you get like the Hoth expansion, then there's a likelihood of snowtroopers appearing in the scenario. Of course, that is determined by the app, but it's a nice added feature. Now, currently the app only allows for the base game, and it does allow for you to have all the expansions, but it only uses the heroes from those expansions. It does not use the enemies, and it does use the armory cards. I'll have to double check that. And of course, it doesn't use those tiles as well from the expansions. Fantasy Flight have said that they are working in making more content for the app, and so that if you have those expansions, that content will be featured in later update, which is a nice touch. The app also does a really clever thing of, essentially, there is obviously the encounter itself, the map that you have to play, the missions that you have to go on, but then there's a nice story element to it where you can decide kind of on story outcomes or story beats. So you might want to try and do something that is a bit risky, but if it pays off, you'll get a reward for it, and that'll carry over into the next mission. Likewise, things like getting heroes or allies to accompany you, that's changed a bit in the app, but it's easy enough to acquire them, and if you do acquire them, you can then use them later on in certain missions to obviously help you in that sense. The app is not foolproof. The app does sometimes get a bit weird, in a sense that's quite humorous. There are situations where a hero might be, like, you might have to say that your Jedi is constantly fighting off 3 elite stormtroopers, but then it'll get to the stormtrooper's turn, and all of a sudden it'll say, go and attack the Wookiee. And all of a sudden the 3 stormtroopers who are right next to the Jedi just turn around and march directly into the Wookiee wielding a giant axe. It's a bit weird that it sometimes does that, but it's also humorous, and it's completely, I guess, within the realm of what an Imperial player might do. They might prioritize someone differently, but there are moments where sometimes what the app is asking you to do is kind of impossible, or just really, really not the best play, which is, again, a bit frustrating. And if you are playing the app, sometimes you might have to give it a bit more leniency and say, oh, it can't move 4 spaces, let's just move it 5 spaces. But the app also does keep that thing in mind of, if it's a character that can move fast, it's obviously going to use a lot of its actions to try and move as far as possible. If a character can do 2 actions or 2 attacks at once, it's going to try and do those 2 attacks at once and prioritize things. So it works really well. I do like the app. It's a nice experience. There is quite a lot of housekeeping. Just keep a constant thing of looking at it on your phone. And I think that's the one down thing I don't like, is that if you have a phone, probably try and get an iPad or just some sort of notepad to have it on instead, simply because the screen is really small on a phone, and there's a lot of text and there's a lot of small icons that you have to look at, and can sometimes strain your eyes. So that's not great. Likewise, I would say the biggest failing of the app is sometimes, again, the actions of the Imperial player just don't really make sense. But these are like 2 minor things for an app I think is really solid work. I think the thing I have to say is that there's a lot of potential for what this app can actually do. this is kind of taking the strain away from being the Imperial player. If you're like me, because I have all the Star Wars Imperial Assault stuff, and because I know all the rules, I'm basically the one expected to be the bad guy. So it's really nice to have this kind of neatened up 4-player co-op experience where I don't have to be the bad guy, where I can actually work with people and be like, oh, and you have those moments of feeling really clever. You know, Star Wars Imperial Assault always has it, but in the app, there are moments when you're like, yes, I knew exactly that's going to happen, and I'm glad I planned for it. But likewise, there is quite a bit of randomness to it as well. There's also a hard mode, which is extremely challenging, and I don't recommend it to start off with. Essentially, that just spawns far more waves of troopers. There is a bit of a balancing issue I kind of have with normal mode as well and stormtroopers, but that's probably just because I'm a bad player. Sometimes it feels like sometimes the mission can feel a bit too easy depending on what spawns, and sometimes it can feel wildly difficult. The one thing I will say about that, and just in terms of difficulty, is that this will probably change quite dramatically as more expansions get added, and obviously as more content gets added, you have less likelihood of knowing what enemies you'll be facing. Another thing is, of course, because of the way the missions are kind of structured, it's good to have a variety of heroes. Basically what this means is you can't have, in a normal game, it's pretty possible to have, like, say, 3 melee damaging, hard-hitting, tough guys. In this, it's probably not the case. It's much better to have a person who's a techie, who's going to be very good at your skill challenges, a person who's good at moving on the map fast, making sure that you have a person that can do high damage with the glass cannon, and of course making sure you have a tank. If you have a more solid, rounded up lineup of heroes, you're going to have a much better time, but of course that does require expansions. I think for what it's offering, it's essentially a free app that gives you a campaign for Star Wars Imperial Assault. And if you like Star Wars Imperial Assault, then just get it. It's so good. And if you are thinking of maybe getting Star Wars Imperial Assault because of the app, I would maybe say just wait just a bit, just to see what other content they come out with. Again, the app's only been out for about a month now. It was released at the beginning of December, so it hasn't had a lot of time to develop. But it'll be interesting to see where it takes itself forward. My final thoughts for the app is it's a great implementation. Basically, it's a great addition to the board game itself. It wasn't needed, but it's really nice that they have just included it now, and it's a great value for money, essentially. Well, it's free, so of course it's going to be great value for money, and it's Star Wars Imperial Assault. I love Star Wars Imperial Assault, so I'm really happy that this app did everything right. Not everything, of course. There are some few minor issues in terms of AI, cleverness, and all that kind of jazz. But generally, this is a really good experience if you're at all interested in Star Wars Imperial Assault. Anyway, that's it for my thoughts. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Maybe you have picked up Star Wars Imperial Assault. Maybe you picked up the app because you liked it so much, or maybe it's the opposite way around. Maybe you kind of picked up Star Wars Imperial Assault because the app finally got released and you really liked the Descent version. Or maybe you think that apps just don't really work. Maybe you like being the competitive Imperial player instead. But let me know in the comment section. Of course, if you have enjoyed this video, remember to hit like, and of course subscribe. I will always try and get out at least one video per week. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.